I'm going to make this as quick of a video here as possible. This is a Boston acoustic subwoofer I took apart to help name parts since the Alpine Type R is still together, ready for diagnosing. I made a list of different problems that a speaker can have, and since my speaker, I can find out what's wrong, it doesn't mean it's what's going to be wrong with your speaker. So I'm going to name a few problems that speakers can have, and that might be what part of your diagnosis should be to check for. One would be what I call a blowout to a voice coil rather than a burnout, where the wires that lead down to the coil, which are usually attached to the cone under the dust cap, which I've removed here on this speaker, you can still see the lines where that they were. The wires sometimes will burn right there because it doesn't have the advantage of being wrapped on the coil as a heat sink or on the former as a heat sink. So those will blow out. And those can be repaired without rewrapping a new voice coil. You might want to check for that. And I'll show you more sometime about how to do all that, but I'm just going to go through the list right now just so you know problems that can happen with a speaker. Another is a hypercoil, where the voice coil, which is wrapped on the other side of this is the inner side of the former, it will start to unravel itself because the glue is degrading with time, or it got too hot or something and it gave way. That's a hypercoil, and those don't always have to be fully rewrapped. You could just re-glue it, of course with the proper glue. Another is a tensile short. The tensile wires connect to the terminals here, which I've also removed in this case, but I guess you know what they are. You can see it on the underside of the speaker. They will sometimes short at the cone where the glue bond is to the voice coil input, and they can also dislodge from here. And you can resolder them and fix a problem very easily. Cone can become dislodged from the voice coil or from the spider, and that will cause it to rattle and it sounds like it's broken, which is actually very easy to repair. Surrounds tear, we all know that. Foam surrounds can tear. This is a rubberized surround, so those are not as prone to tearing, but they can be cut, which will cause problems with sealed enclosures more than it would with vented top enclosures. That can be repaired usually with just a silicone caulking. Magnet shifting. You can't see the magnet on this, so let me show you on the Type R. See, that's a double stacked magnet. There's the back plate, and if it's showing here, front plate. The magnets will come separated wherever they're glued together. If they're not bolted, sometimes they can shift apart under the heat or the stress that they go through. I've seen one that got split apart one time like a bagel. It got pulled just straight apart. The strontium ferrite magnet, not the double stack, the magnet itself got pulled apart from the stress that the voice coil puts on the magnetic structure. Ceramic is very strong, but it's also very brittle. So magnets can break, and that can be a major problem with a speaker. So you want to go across and take like the boot off, the rubber boot, if it has one. In this case, it would be hard to tell because it has a cover over it. The frame actually covers the magnet. But when you can, check for cracks and stuff. See if the magnets have become dislodged, have moved over to the side or anything, because that will pull the T-yoke pole. See this? Get my lighting better. T-yoke. It will pull it over to the side and wedge it against the coil, and you'll think it's locked up like it's burned out coil or something. That's not always the case. So if it's a magnet shifting problem, that can be fixed with reclamping the magnet and gluing it with some kind of a strong glue like a JB Weld or polyurethane one. I've used both. Let's see, I got this list I'm looking through right here. Broken magnet, I think I just went over that. Bent or broken frame. Aluminum frames can break, and they're not really going to bend. A steel frame can bend, and that can cause problems with the alignment of the speaker cone, which subsequently will align the voice coil in the gap and cause problems. Bending the frame back, I'll leave that up to you. Find out how you want to do that. Bad terminal connection, I think I got into that, but sometimes hard to see, but they got nuts on bolts or something like that. Sometimes they become disconnected and you can ratchet them down. I've seen that happen before. The voice coil former deformation. Now that can happen on aluminum or capped. On aluminum, now saying aluminum doesn't really like to bend, but when it's in a thinner form, like on a voice coil wrap for the bobbin, the former, it can bend, and it can bend apart under the stresses that the voice coil puts towards the cone. And then it's rubbing the yoke pole or causing havoc like that. You know, it can break apart too, chip apart, and that's that would require putting on a new voice coil former, which is very tough. Debris in the gap, the debris can get inside the gap down in the speaker. See, this has a block for it, a metal mesh to keep debris from getting in, but some speakers don't. You can get debris in there, it will cause problems. Cones can crack. That happens on polypropylene a whole lot. I've seen that a few times. That can be re-glued with types of epoxy. Surround can disconnect from the frame, disconnect from the cone. Spotters can tear apart. Spotters can warp also, and that is very problematic, but still can be repaired. The voice coil can be abraded and break with time, where the outer part of the coil will rub against the front plate, and that's very rare, but it can happen. You can also lose a voice coil when you're running a subwoofer. If you're running a quad coil, you could lose a coil. You got 3 coils running. And if you're running a dual voice coil, you can blow out one coil or have problems leading to the coil through the tensile wires or whatnot, and lose a coil. The speaker will still run, but you're noticing it's not moving as much as your other speakers. And of course, everything can be repaired, but for now, that's just a little checklist for you to look through to help diagnose your speaker. I'm going to get to another part of this video next. My battery's dying. I get my batteries replaced here, and we're going to test out the Alpine R, find out what's wrong with it, and get going from there on taking it apart.